All right, guys, it looks like we are live and we have 5 dislikes already. Don and I were just talking about that. So guys, in case you don't know who he is, this is Sootch. And one of the reasons I wanted to have Sootch on the channel, first of all, we've never done a live stream together. So
that's true.
That's crazy. I can't believe we've known each other this long and haven't done a live stream together. But, you know, the current events is something that I think warranted us having this live stream. You know, I reached out to you in text message and say, hey, would you like to come on the show? If you don't know this about Sootch, he has another channel that's very popular called Sensible Prepper. And I consider myself to be something of a prepper, but it's not a lifestyle for me. For me, it's just one of those peace of mind things. So I always have a couple months worth of food on hand. I always have medical supplies on hand, you know, just the basics, right? Water filtration, simple things. And of course, when this COVID-19 thing kicked off, when Trump banned the inbound flights from China, I told my wife to go to the store and pick up some more essentials just to extend our, 2-month window to maybe 3 or 4. And I caught a little bit of flack for that. My personal Facebook friends were laughing at me. My wife was even laughing at me. But, now we're seeing people cleaning out the shelves. And I think both Sootch and I wanted to talk about, first, Sootch, let's talk about how people should be reacting to this. I think there's a lot of overreaction, a lot of panic, and people should be calm and clear-headed and not be reactionary at this time.
Well, I see a number of different ways that people are reacting. I mean, some people are coming in and are panicking. Then you've got the people that, are just they're doing what they're being told. And then you've got people that just refuse to care about it.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the biggest dangers.
Yeah, it is. So one thing I noticed, I try to keep abreast of the news. We don't have regular television. We don't have satellite. We don't have cable. We do streaming on all the services and stuff. But I do keep abreast of the news online. And one of the things, that has made the news is the fact that airfare obviously is dirt cheap right now. And spring break's going on. And people are traveling, especially younger people who think that they're, immune to possibly getting sick. And granted, this is just a flu bug, but it is a little bit more dangerous than your average flu. One of the biggest problems is the fact that we've never seen this particular strain before, so there's no immunity anybody has, and there's no vaccine at the moment. Granted, they're making very rapid progress in that front, but it could be up to a year before they have a vaccine. But I think the reality is most people are going to wind up getting it. It's very contagious, but the young folks traveling around taking advantage of cheap airfare, cheap hotels aren't helping matters any. I think the way most of the governments around the world have flattened that curve, meaning their number of reported cases are starting to flatten out and start to go down, is because of the extreme measures they've taken, which of course now we've taken as well here in the United States. But yeah, folks need to just be, I love using the word sensible because sensible prepper, but just be sensible, right? If you don't need to be in public places, don't go. Right now, restaurants are closed. We live in a very small town. We went out and got pizza, but they're only doing pickup. But we went and got pizza. We want to support our local businesses because they're hurting right now.
Yes.
And so, again, be sensible. I didn't go in there. I kept my distance. I got my hand sanitizer. I'm not breathing on anybody. And it's not like we're spreading the plague that's going to wipe out 50% of the population. So people, I think, need to calm down a little bit, but also be socially aware of the fact that this thing's highly contagious.
Right. Well, one thing I've heard over and over, is the flu kills way more people. And it does. It kills 35,000 people, 2018 to 19.
Yep. In some years, it's killed almost 100,000.
Yeah. And the flu's been around for 2,000 years. Mm-hmm. And you're right. We do have this somewhat of immunity to it. We do have vaccines. So the one thing we don't have with coronavirus or COVID-19 is, we don't have any immunity. And, one of the things, though, that's different, and here's the other thing about COVID-19, is everybody's an expert, and yet everybody's disagreeing.
Yeah.
Even WHO and the CDC are like, this is the number, we're getting different numbers from different places. A lot of it has to do with the healthcare systems in different countries. Italy right now, I mean, they're going through disaster.
Yeah.
But, the big thing is while flu kills 0.1%, COVID-19, just from what we're getting, and that's the unfortunate thing, is we don't really have a total picture.
Right.
But the figures we're getting right now is 3.7% to 3.4%,
which makes it considerably more lethal.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, we would lose, instead of 35,000, we're talking about 135,000.
Yeah.
And again, those numbers are conflicted. There's a lot of different opinions, but still, regardless, it's much more deadly than the flu.
But just treat it like the flu, right? If I have the flu, I'm not going to go to work, right? I think, obviously, as you said, we don't know a whole lot about the characteristics of this particular bug. We've heard that it has a higher mortality rate because it causes pneumonia. Pneumonia with the regular flu is quite lethal as well, but this particular strain doesn't give you the stomach bug. You don't puke, you don't get diarrhea, you get water in the lungs. Your lungs start to suffer from pneumonia. And I've seen all sorts of reports the last few days of studies that have been done. They've reported studies out of China or Italy, I think perhaps, where they said that people with type A blood are more likely to contract the virus, where people with type O blood are far less likely to contract the virus. We don't know. I mean, these are preliminary studies based on very small sample sizes. They're saying, the people that are young get the sniffles, but people in their 70s with underlying conditions, it's, they're symptomatic and 3 days later they're dead. It goes from one extreme to the other. And we don't have solid data, but people tend to panic, and it doesn't help when the government takes prudent action. But when the government takes that action, it immediately causes people to panic. And one of the things that I want to urge people not to do is don't go to the store and buy a bunch of perishables or even non-perishables and hoard it to a degree where you're denying another American food. The food line, the supply line for the food is going to flow, guys. Crops are going to be planted. Crops are going to come in. That it's going to be there, right? So don't deny your fellow Americans access to basic necessities because you're over-consuming. Try to keep that in mind.
Another thing is don't be selfish.
Yes.
A lot of people are like, well, it's not really going to affect me that much. The symptoms seem to be pretty low, like you said, with the younger generation. But right now in the U.S., some of the studies are showing an alarming trend that a lot of young people are starting to get into critical situations.
I was just going to bring that up. I heard today in the news they are doing CAT scans on people that are presenting in hospitals with COVID-19 that are in their 20s, and they're seeing what they called horrifying effects to their lungs. They don't know if it's because they're smokers. They don't know if it's because they're vapors. The doctors at the CDC are saying, if you smoke and vape, try not to do it during this period. You don't know, but we do know the bug attacks the lungs. And so not to spread panic, I think what we're trying to say, guys, is take it seriously, treat it like the seasonal flu. Don't go around loved ones. Stay away from your elderly parents. Try to keep them out of the public, bring them food, but don't hug and kiss them. You know what I mean? Just I wouldn't want to give my elderly mother the flu. So if I have the flu, I'm not going to go over and give her a big, hug and a kiss. So just be aware that, that there are other people that even if you are healthy and if you do get COVID-19 and you only have the sniffles and a slight cough and a slight fever, there's other people that can be quite lethal too. And that's true of the seasonal flu, and that's true of COVID-19.
That's right. Well, we were talking earlier, my mom and dad, they live next door. My dad turns 80 this summer. And, they know, they're concerned about it. They've talked all about it. We've talked to them about it. And yet they get in their car at least 2 to 3 times a day and take off.
Yeah.
And I'm like, come on. I said, please, you don't need to stop. If you need anything, we'll get it. We'll help you.
Yep.
And it's like, and so, and there's a lot of people out there that are dismissing this.
Yeah. We have neighbors to our north. And, they're older than I am, so I don't know if you call them elderly. It seems like people in their 70s are pretty spry these days. But anyway, so, and don't do what I just did, touch your face. Just kidding. I hand sanitized. But, I reached out to our neighbors to the north, and I said, hey, guys, look, if you're in need of food, if you need anything, just give us a shout. I'll bring it by. We have plenty. We can share, and we can always get more because, the supply lines are going to continue to flow. And, again, we're just being good neighbors, and they offered the same. But, again, just common sense, folks. Please don't panic. Don't go out there to Cheaper Than Dirt and pay $1,000 for a case of 556. Gosh, I hate those people. Not the buyers, the sellers. Cheaper Than Dirt. Just they prey upon, every time there's some sort of, pending legislation or in this case a pandemic, they go and hike prices the next day, and it just irks me to no end. I posted on Instagram about that. Yeah. But anyway, so. Is there anything else you want to say about that, Sootch, before we move on to maybe some things folks can do that can kind of prepare them for,
Well, I think, we've been kind of inundated with the news, and a lot of people do know, but I guess the big thing, and that's what you've been saying, be sensible, and don't think of just yourself when this is coming through. I know we were talking about some of the people that live on our road, and they do have family kind of close, but anybody that needs anything, we're trying to reach out and, to help them. And you're right. The one big thing about this is we still have power, we still have water, we still, we have our basic utilities. We still have the internet.
Yep.
And so this to me, and we'll get into this in a minute, I know because we want to talk about it, but this, honestly, this is the big thing that I want everybody to do is think about your preps right now. I mean, how prepared are you, for something like this? We didn't know about this back in October. We would have never dreamed that this was going to happen.
Right.
And yet, this is historical. I mean, what has happened is historical.
Oh, we're absolutely living through history at the moment. I mean, in my lifetime, I've never seen, even 9/11, I haven't seen this much of a response. Yes, all flights were shut down. That was weird to not see a single contrail in the sky. But we did shut our borders down after we were attacked. But you take a look at what they've done. They've closed restaurants. They've closed schools. They've closed bars. They've closed all sporting events. They've closed all gatherings. First it was 50, then it was 10, and now it's 5. It's like they're telling people just to stay home and not socialize. And I've never seen that happen before. Now a lot of people are going to go to the conspiracy side of things and say, well, because of this really, really crazy response, what are they not telling us? Well, I don't know that it's a matter of them not telling us stuff. I think it's more of a matter of this thing is extremely contagious and extremely dangerous to a certain segment of our population. And that's that population that we care most about, our parents, our elderly parents, or perhaps you have a loved one that has cancer and is in chemo. You have your immune system is beaten down by the chemo. You have an autoimmune disease. You have any underlying condition. This can be really, really troublesome for those folks, if not lethal.
If you're overweight is one. They said they've had a lot of problems with people that are really heavy. Because they just can't do it.
They said high blood pressure as well, and I have high blood pressure. So, but I also have O blood, so hopefully it kind of levels out there.
Keep your hand sanitizer, Tim.
Right, one offsets the other. But so I'm just kind of going through popping up, folks. Thank you for the super chats. It means a whole lot, especially in the days of demonetization. I'm trying to pop your guys' comments up on the screen. We may not be able to answer all your questions. We will do some questions. But I wanted to throw your chats up just so folks can see them. And thank you very much, guys. It means an awful lot to us. But so let's delve into. I'm a person that got caught off guard. I have in my pantry. I have maybe a week's worth of food, maybe 2 weeks worth of food. What can I do to kind of prepare myself? I'm not into the survivalist is what we called it in the 80s. I guess they call it prepping community these days. Correct me if I'm wrong. But what does the prepping community recommend for bugging in, right? Hunkering down in position. It's not the end of the world. It's not the apocalypse. But you're going to be stuck at home for a while. What are some things folks can do that are important?
Well, if you haven't prepared at all, I mean, you're going to need food. One thing you can do, obviously, is order food if you need to.
Yep.
And, that's one possibility. But here's the thing, and it's like one thing my wife has done and some others is they go early in the morning before the crowds start getting there. It's like tomorrow, she needs to pick up a few things. So she's going to go about 6. And the great thing is we still have trucks running, so, there's still a supply going. And so going by early in the morning, picking up things, try to stay out of those high volume types.
Yeah.
The local PSA, this is funny. We have a PSA retail store here, and it is busy. And so they have closed it, but they're open 4 hours on Saturday.
PSA is in Palmetto State Armory?
Yes.
Okay, just so folks aren't aware of the acronym. I assume that, but maybe it was a grocery store. I just want to make sure everybody knew it.
Palmetto State Armory. And, the thing is, a buddy of mine was telling me about it, and he said, yeah, I may need to go. I said, dude, if I were you, I wouldn't get near that place. Because if they're only open 4 hours, there's going to be a massive crowd there. So one of the big things is to avoid times that's high volume, wherever you are. And if you're gonna need food, you need to be able to do that. Even going out to to-go restaurants like you were talking about, going through a drive-through, that's definitely some things that you need to do. And you're just gonna have to figure it out because this is new territory for all of us. But definitely that to me is just to kind of take your shopping time and make sure, because if you need things. Now, see, for us, I know a lot of people in China. I've been hearing about this from the beginning, watching what was going on. So we have our long-term food storage, our dry goods and all that. Mm-hmm. But in our pantry, we try to keep it pretty full.
Yeah.
And we try to keep it rotated. But when this started hitting, it was funny because I just thought, well, here it is. I mean, not the end of the world, not zombie apocalypse, but I was like, this is a serious situation.
Yeah.
And so, my wife went out immediately, and I know you were talking about the same thing earlier, Tim. Going out and getting those items that we typically eat. And 2, you want to stay healthy. So, that's going to be hard to do with, going to the grocery, without going to the grocery to get those goods, the leafy greens and the vegetables and things like that.
That and personal hygiene too, right? I mean, that's a big one.
Yes, and again, and you've probably heard this 100 times, but, washing your hands with soap and water for about 20 seconds, not just washing them off, but 20 seconds, really scrub them, get in between, your fingers, get your fingernails, keep your fingernails cut, just really personal grooming, keeping yourself clean, and keeping your surroundings clean. Now, that's one thing that's really, kind of flown off the shelves as well is, Clorox and wipes and hand sanitizer. And so those are some things. One thing you can use is 70% alcohol. It's isopropyl alcohol. That's what they use to clean surgical instruments.
Yep.
So, if you can't find hand sanitizer, even though that's being bought up too. But now one thing that you can do also is 90-proof alcohol.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can use it. And so that's definitely not just your regular, proof. You'd need to get really some seriously strong stuff.
Yeah, the stuff that you don't want to drink without mixing it with something. I don't drink anymore.
All right. Well, let me tell you this. This is the kind of situation that we're involved in. I went to a gas station. We were going to the range. And the range where we go, I can go in without talking to anybody, without doing anything. I go to my area. We get to shoot, and then we leave. And we're not exposing ourselves. And so, but on the way, I needed gas. So when I got out of my car, I should have had gloves, and I just wasn't thinking about it. So I take sanitary, one of these wipes, these antimicrobial wipes, and I kind of try to grab the handle, and then I'm taking my card and I'm putting it in. And that's one thing: cards, money, your ATM or your card readers. Those are all really bad areas if you touch those. In fact, in China, what they would do is they would set their card reader, they'd have a box of tissue, you'd pull one out, use it, and then throw it away. So money, all that stuff, you need to really take care as you're pulling things in and out.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you, it's really, when you really think about it, you touch so many things.
Yeah.
And so, with the gas, I was doing that, and I was trying to hold it and hit the test I wanted, whatever well, of course I was just using regular, so I hit the button, and so I'm over there trying to. It was kind of funny, really comical, but I was watching all these people coming through, and not one of them had a care in the world.
No.
They're just whatever. And how many thousands of people come through that gas station every day and just sit there and hit those buttons?
And here's the thing. In the United States, they've only tested a few thousand people for the virus. It's when people present with symptoms, they'll go to a hospital. Most often they have to mail those tests out to some other state, and it takes days to get results. Now they're pumping millions of test kits into the U.S. market. What does that mean? We're going to see a huge spike in the number of cases. And it's going to cause people to freak out, but it's normal because for every one person we know that has it, there's probably 1,000 we don't know that have it, because the symptoms vary from, again, the sniffles to pneumonia. And so, and people are going to freak out once again. And again, folks, please just exercise common sense and caution. They don't shake hands when you see a friend, when you're there. Just, elbow bump, a high five, waving, whatever. Just say good morning, good afternoon, good to see you. Most people understand at this point. And the reason being is this bug is considerably more contagious based upon what we know than other flu-type bugs. So it is a strain of influenza, but it's one we've never seen with properties like this before. And so, yeah, man, I mean, like for me, I just keep hand sanitizer. Granted, it's impossible. My wife bought me a whole bunch before I left for SHOT Show. So I have a whole bunch of the little mini ones that I just keep them with me. And so I just hand sanitize. When I do go in, like when I went in to pick up our pizza, just stay away from folks. I don't breathe on them. My wife went in just to pick up stuff because, like you, we have our preps. We have our non-perishables and we have our dried food, long-term storage stuff that we won't get into unless things get really ugly. And chances are things won't go that way. So we just keep going in and picking up stuff we would need for dinner and just keep replacing it, just getting what we need, and that's it. My wife was at the store, and she saw a lady standing out at the end of the aisle. Don't know if it's a smoker's cough or if it's COVID-19. And my wife was like, turned right around and went 3 aisles away, And it's like, dude, if you're that sick, get somebody to go to the store for you if you can. Right. One person did ask a question I thought was good. What do you think about the Mountain Mystery 3-gun group going ahead with their event? Hundreds of people are going to be coming from across the nation going to it. You know what? We're all adults, and you can decide what to do and what not to do. If you want to go out and go to a bar, I mean, do I want to make it a criminal offense? No. Just I don't think it's prudent where we're at right now, given the measures the government's taking. I mean, what do you think? I just wish people would be more.
Yeah, I definitely. I mean, to me, and like you say, we're all adults here. You do what you want to do. Let me say this though. There's an old adage. It says that man has to be controlled. He can either have self-control or he has to be forced. And unfortunately, if they're really going to get a grip on this, we've got to be somewhat, listening to what the authorities are saying. And yes, I've seen a lot of the conspiracy type. Well, I have the right for freedom of assembly.
Go assemble, man, if that's what you want to do. Just keep in mind you're not helping.
And you're possibly endangering people. You may be the one with it.
Yeah.
So I think that one thing is, now I'll just put it this way. Honestly, in the past, there are certain presidents we've had that if this started, I would probably be very concerned as well. A little bit more concerned, I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
Because I'm not totally blind to it. But, to me, it's like Trump is all about America.
Yes, he is.
I mean, he really is. And he's not without fault, but I'll tell you what.
No, I've picked many bones with him, but I think he's done a good job here.
But, yeah, overall, and so here's the thing. And he's not a globalist.
No, he's America first, as I am.
So I really feel that with him at the helm, and Mike Pence, which I really admire a lot.
You're welcome. He's our governor.
I know. What a great guy, right? So with those guys at the helm, I have a little more comfort, or I'm not worried. I'm not worried about some possible things that can happen. But what really surprised me was how much, and it did at first, but then a little bit later I started thinking, but how much of the ammunition is just flown off the shelves.
Yep.
Gun sales.
That brings up one of the super chats. Somebody said, how much do you see this increasing the price of ammunition? And should I trade my 45 for a 9mm or to save cost of ammunition? So this is something that I want to discuss, but keep in mind, guys, I'm not telling you to go out and panic buy ammunition. Again, hoarding ammunition, thinking you're going to get into running gun battles every single day, avoid gun battles. Okay, so
Please.
right, I know you think you're going to prevail in every single one of them. The best way to stay alive in a gunfight is not to get into one. So just have enough ammunition to protect yourself. Now, granted, we all like to target shoot, and we may have to curtail some of our target shooting. I mean, right now we're low on reserves. We haven't received ammunition from federal who supports us in months, and they've just said we don't have anything to send, and that was even before the COVID-19 thing. So, I'm going to start. I'm rationing ammunition for what we use in video, but I have to shoot to stay alive. This is how we live. This is how I make my mortgage payment and feed my family. But if you don't, you're going to have to curtail some of your shooting because the price of ammunition is going to go up accordingly with demand and supply. That's what a free market does. I don't condone what Cheaper Than Dirt's doing, charging $1,000 for a case of ammunition. But I did see, and I think maybe it was Mr. Guns and Gear or somebody circulated a letter from Federal that they had sent out saying that they were increasing their production, they're hiring more staff, and they're running 24/7 to meet the demand that currently is there. So do I recommend selling guns? No. Do I recommend selling something that you use and are familiar with to get something that's just because it's less expensive? No. I remember when one of the Obama scares happened and the shelves were barren, guns and ammunition. The only ammo you could find anywhere was 40 Smith & Wesson, and that was the first time in my life I considered, but didn't do it, buying a 40 Smith & Wesson handgun just so I could go shoot. Don't go out and panic buy stuff you don't need.
That first assault weapons ban back during Clinton era and some of the things that happened after that, there was a time there where, ammunition, again, dried up.
Yep.
And I remember, I'll never forget it. It was 40 Smith & Wesson on the shelf. Mm-hmm. Every time. And it wouldn't be no 9, 45, anything else.
Yep.
And that's when I determined that I would always have a 40 caliber just for those times.
It's not a bad idea, man. I mean, I have a couple, but they're classics.
Right.
It's like that collaborative pistol that CZ and Colt did together that was a double action 40. I have one of those. I don't know how practical it is for a carry gun, but I keep enough 9mm on hand to defend myself. So I just want to caution you guys, don't go out and make radical gun purchases. It's not like, if the price of AR-15s go from $800 a gun to $1,600 a gun overnight, don't race out and buy it at $1,600 thinking that you're going to get the last one, because this will subside. This will go away, and those prices will come down, and you're going to feel real bad when you can't get the money that you spent back out of that firearm. Now is not the time to be panic buying things like firearms. Use what you have, only purchase what you need, and just curtail your fun activities until this subsides in the next couple of months. Please don't panic buy. It's not going to help you, and it's not helping others.
Well, one thing that I thought was really funny is a lot of people are buying guns for the first time, many with very liberal leanings. And they'd come into gun shops and they're looking for their gun, and they get mad when they have to wait.
Yeah. Gun Owners of America put out a thing that I tweeted it and sent out on Instagram. The anti-gunners are now upset because they're just now learning they can't buy a gun online and have it delivered to their house because they don't want to go out in public. It's like, jack wagons, you did that back in 1968, thank you. Welcome to our side of the argument, but they're only going to have a moment of clarity, realizing how stupid the gun laws are for a little while. Then when the panic goes away, they'll go right back to being gun-grabbing idiots. But boy, they sure want theirs when bad things happen, and it's just they only see things the right way while the pressure's on, but when the pressure's released, they go right back to being goofballs.
Right. Well, that's one of the funny things that a lot of people are saying now is a lot of people all of a sudden are preppers, or they're all of a sudden looking and saying, well, those guys aren't as crazy as we thought,
Right.
I mean, having stuff. But it's funny to me because you're already preparing for storms or different things that just happen, hurricanes, whatever kind of event, and really just taking that next step, because things will happen, sooner or later. And it's funny because you don't drive around without insurance on your car, expecting something to happen immediately. You're hoping you don't have a wreck, but you have your insurance anyway. Of course, it's mandated by the state, but still, you make sure you keep it current and you're driving But it's the same thing with this. But the big thing is you don't have food. How are you going to live?
Right.
You don't have water. If you don't have a source of water. Thank goodness again, we're not facing that right now. But to me, guys, and this is to everyone out there, really consider putting together some kind of plan. In fact, I tell people all the time, because some people, they don't want to get into too much. And, really the reason why it's sensible prepper is because I don't have a bunker. I don't have, I don't, my life is not centered around that.
Right.
It's just part of what we do on a regular basis.
Right.
And so the hoarding, just like you and I were talking about earlier, hoarding is not a part of what we do. We buy it incrementally as we go. Yep. And, and that's the other thing, guys. You don't have to go out and buy a whole massive amount. Just add a little bit as you go, rotate it out, and just build up.
Yep.
And it'll come, just like with your ammo. I mean, once it settles down, and it will, Lord willing, you can go out and just start to do a little bit as you can.
So a couple of folks have brought up a few things I want to address here, which I think are relevant. One super chat guy said, Tim, I'm out here in California. They're about to go under martial law. Can I come stay with you? So there's a serious question there. And this is something I've been telling my circle of friends, is that I fully expect martial law to be implemented in larger cities. And they're not going to call it martial law. I'm not saying that to scare you. But when people start freaking out over things like food and fighting in stores, the police are going to be overwhelmed because they're going to be dealing with the COVID-19 too. They're going to have officers that are sick. Many states, including, I believe, even my own state of Indiana, has already activated the National Guard. New Jersey did it several days ago, and the National Guard's going to be present to maintain order so people don't loot, people don't go out and rob and cause problems. And so martial law may come to some degree. They're not going to call it martial law because it has a negative connotation with it, rightfully so. I don't want to be governed by a military police force. That's one of the reasons we have the Posse Comitatus Act, but it's a very real possibility, and Trump has even said he may use his authority to do that. So don't panic if martial law is declared or if they say they're putting the National Guard out there, because at some point, if people don't stop panic buying, they may have to force people to ration food. So when you go to the store, you're not going to walk out with a shopping cart full of Beanie Weenies. You're going to go out with 4 cans, right? Because people won't stop screwing over their fellow American by hoarding. Right. So that may happen. I don't want to be part of that. I'm not a statist. I'm the type, if you follow the channel, I don't like having the federal government anywhere near me. I fully believe in my sheriff and my county and my local authorities, I should say, and keeping it small in states' rights. I don't like the federal government doing things, but sometimes they have to do things. And I think, like we were talking earlier, Trump has done with the travel bans and things like that. And that's when a federal government is actually doing something it's supposed to versus stripping us of our rights. At least they're not having votes on assault weapon bans for the next foreseeable future.
Right. And this will probably help that to continue to go on out into the future, I hope.
Yeah, I hope so too. So there was I've seen this happen. So a couple of guys have said this. Tyven, thank you, brother, for jumping in. If you guys don't know the Tyven Show, he jumps into our live chats all the time and helps moderate. But he said there was a report in the news about the state of Illinois restricting ammo and gun sales. Yes, the story's true, but that was a city. It wasn't the entire state, to my knowledge. Another super chat came in. Let me see if I can find it. I think New Orleans or something like that, they said. Yes, New Orleans mayor. Let me pop it up here for you guys so you can see it. Sootch, I know you can't see what I'm doing here, but you'll see it if you replay the stream. So another super chat from Technobobber. New Orleans mayor bans the sale of firearms. Now, we saw this stuff in Katrina, and this is stuff that I am vehemently opposed to.
Yes.
My local sheriff knows where we stand. Fortunately, I'm in a very pro-Second Amendment county and a very pro-Second Amendment state. But, I mean, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm not telling anybody to break the law, but I can tell you what I would do if somebody came for my guns. They wouldn't get them. They did that in Katrina. There will be certain states that may attempt that. As things unravel, should they start to unravel, they may pull a Katrina and send people out to go collect guns because they don't think you're to be trusted with them. And that I cannot abide. You do what you think is right, but,
A number of states have actually passed laws to stop that. After Katrina,
yeah.
I know North Carolina, South Carolina passed laws saying in a national emergency, you can't go and confiscate guns.
No. And I would hope that people don't give up their firearms. I'm not telling you to go out there and get in gun battles with the police. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, no, you can't take away my rights. I'm going to protect my home. That's why we have a Second Amendment. It's easy for me to say, granted, I live in a pro-Second Amendment state with an awesome sheriff, but yeah, just hang low, right? This is going to pass. But man, some states will use these for political gain. There are people out there, even in the first few bills they tried to pass in Congress, they're putting all sorts of pork barrel crap in the bills. And they were, trying to get all their little pet projects funded. And they finally said, stop it. This is about the pandemic. But that's just normal business. But it seems like the Democrats and Republicans, for once since 9/11, are playing nice together and actually trying to get something done that's positive for the American people. Let's hope it continues. It's always short-lived, but let's see if
sometimes it brings us together, and that's that's a good thing.
So one thing I noticed when I was pop up another super chat here. The National Guard was activated in Indiana for like 2 weeks for drill. So they're prepping, it looks like, in Indiana in the eventuality that they need to deploy. And keep in mind, if they do deploy the Guard units, many times they're going to be helping in a medical capacity. They're going to be helping deliver food. They're going to be helping, rebuild infrastructure. Should we have a storm that knocks power out? They're not just there to impose martial law.
That's right.
And you should support our guardsmen and women just as you support our military, because if they do get called out, they are there to help. Now, if they come around for your guns, that's a whole different discussion. Fortunately, I don't think that's going to happen in our state.
But right, it could.
It could,
definitely.
But yeah. All right, let's see. Check out Sensible Prepper on YouTube. Years of good advice. That's from Rick. He super chatted. And thank you, Rick. And Sootch, that's for you, my friend.
I appreciate it. It's funny, Tim. The channel, when this started, I gained about 10,000 subscribers in 3 days.
That's incredible. I would start a prepping channel, but it would be like me stumbling through prepping. Like, here's my can of beans I bought today. So,
hey, I've been there.
So let's say that you have things. Let's say that you have things. What's this? First, relax. It's not that bad. Fear mongering to the hilt. Relax. You obviously haven't been following the stream, my friend. This is what happens when people get on the internet and talk about things they don't even know anything about. We haven't been telling people to panic. We've been telling people not to panic and act sensibly. Okay, so you might want to run along and troll another channel. Okay, let's see. All right, so one thing that I wanted to bring up, because some folks may have things on hand. So let's say that you have a dozen or 2 dozen eggs in the refrigerator. A lot of people don't know that eggs can actually last quite a long time, and obviously are a good source of protein and other nutrients. I've read in the past, and correct me if I'm wrong, you can do simple things like dip eggs in wax, and they'll basically last many, many years. If you have chickens, or you can get fresh eggs like we do from our neighbors, we exchange goods, and one of the trades we get is fresh eggs. We don't wash them. We don't do anything. We just leave them at room temperature, and they stay fresh forever. Not forever, but for a very, very long time. So let's say that people have some stuff on hand. They have bread. They have eggs. They have other perishables. Is there anything that they can do to extend the life of those perishables so that they don't have to worry about them going bad? They can stretch it out for a month or two?
Well, usually, because, there are some things you can do, but usually, like for us, we just plant gardens. Mm-hmm. And then, we do our canning and we do things like that. But, yes, you can do some things, even putting your bread in the refrigerator, because again, we do have power. If you put your bread in a freezer,
yeah.
I mean, these aren't necessarily prepping in a sense, but, as far as just practical, there's some definite things you can do. And really, I mean, just eat the bread. I mean,
yeah.
If you do buy it, you need to freeze it. Because really, I mean, bread is bread.
Right.
In a day of bread, it doesn't take long for it to go bad.
Yep.
But, one of the big things to me, is taking this and springboarding it as it goes through to say, okay, you know what, this is where we are now, but next time let's put it ahead. Let's think about it. Now it's like, let's take gardening for instance. A lot of people want to, oh, I've got heirloom seeds put back, and and I can grow vegetables if things go wrong. And then you grow a garden and you find out that you're having insect problems. You have deer, which I put a garden in the first year we moved down here, and it grew great. The second year, deer came in, and I mean, they ate the plants down to the stalk. And so, it was like, okay, we've got to go to plan B. And so if you are depending on that for your livelihood, for your food, you've got to think, you really need to get these things out and start working already.
Yeah.
And, the big thing is in America, we were very self-reliant. We're individuals, rugged individualism, independent thinking. But if you're going to do that, you need to have some things in order, not following along with what society and what and being dependent on the government to do whatever they do. And it's like you said, Tim, I am, except for the highways and the military, the government really doesn't do anything for me.
No, I don't want them to either. I want them out of my life. I work with my local community. Like when all this started to kick off, as I already mentioned, I contacted my immediate neighbors. We talked about what resources we had. We agreed to help each other. One of my neighbors, his mother and she's elderly, just had, surgery, and they're dealing with some of the complications of that. I told them I'd be there to help them, whatever they need. Rely on your friends and your family and your local network, and you should be good to go. One thing I noticed that my wife recently went to the store, like I said, where she's going probably once a week or so, and we noticed like the milk section completely wiped out, but there's powdered milk still on the shelves and there's condensed milk still on the shelves. You can use that stuff. Another thing that you can buy at room temperature, things like almond milk that are stable for lengthy periods of time that still give you something to eat your breakfast cereal with. There's alternatives out there that you can still pick up that the panic buyers are overlooking because they look at condensed milk and they go, what's this for? Or evaporated milk, I should say. You can actually use that stuff by adding more water to it or whatever and actually use it as you would milk. So there's other alternatives out there. I noticed last time I went to the store just to see how things were going locally. Again, shelves are bare of the things like all the canned soups, like all the Campbell canned soups with the little dispenser racks. Everything that's even remotely that sounds good is gone. Anything that's popular in flavor, gone. You're finding my local store, all the bread's completely gone. I mean, completely gone. The one I thought was absolutely hysterical, the prepared bagged salads. That entire section, gone. Apparently people are worried about not having salads. But there's still plenty of stuff there that you can, if you look, you'll find beans that haven't been cooked. They're in a bag that are, take hours to cook. People don't want to buy them because it's not convenient. They want minute rice. You can buy a bag of regular rice that takes longer to cook, but it's rice and it's a source of food. Look at the stuff that people are leaving behind because it has value. Don't just go shopping for one thing and say, darn, they don't have it here, and race off to the next location. Just pick up some stuff that's there, get online and search how to make a recipe with it. There's so many things you can do even when people are stripping the shelves bare. But it's also important to note that the supply lines will continue to run. The stores will restock. Every single manager I've spoken to in our local stores say they still will be getting regular shipments of food. So it's not like there's going to be a panic at the beginning. I think it's going to slowly subside. And within a few weeks, people will stop hoarding and our grocery stores and things will start to get back to normal.
Right.
I just ask that you guys don't contribute to that panic because it's really unnecessary, I think.
Well, I think one added burden, though, to the grocery stores is that people aren't eating out as much.
Yes, and people are home from work and kids are home from school. We had a conversation with one of the principal at our local school, and my wife asked, what's the chances of our kids coming back this year? And she said about 1%. So we were originally told 20 days, and yet to be determined. Like they would reevaluate in 20 days, but right now it looks like, at least in our area, the schools don't have any plan of opening back up. I know a lot of colleges aren't. That means kids are home from school. Parents are being burdened. A lot of people can't go to work. Think about all the folks that work at, fast food places or restaurants that can't go to work because they don't need all the people. They only need a skeleton staff because all they can do is, drive through deliveries and, pickups to go. That's going to be something that folks are going to be out, looking for food. They're going to be roaming around. They're going to have extra time on their hands. And just all I can say is, guys, please resist the urge to go out and buy tons of ammo. Resist the urge to go out and buy a gun you don't need. Resist the urge to go out and hoard a bunch of stuff that you're not going to use that somebody else may need, until we get back to a more normalized schedule.
Well, there's a book written by Verfal, which was about the Argentina when they had their economic collapse. And it's called The Modern Survival Guide for the Coming Economic Collapse. And then it tells true stories about Argentina, what they went through. Honestly, it completely transformed the way I thought about prepping or survival and things like that. And, a lot of people feel like, they're going to have the lone wolf mentality. They're going to go take off and they're going to be, Rambo, and they got their bug out bag and they're out in the woods, which just makes you a glorified refugee.
Yeah.
That's what you're doing. But one of the big things he was talking about is the people that really survived were the people that joined together in the community and work together.
Yeah.
Like you were talking about bartering and trading and working, together. And, one of the things he said was, you think here you are, there's not really any police around. But he said, the police won't be there to protect you, but they will be there to arrest you.
Yeah.
So anything you're doing, you need to, and obviously hadn't gotten anywhere near anything like this, but just keep that in mind that, work together and do your best.
Don't rely too much on the government, because I've already seen multiple news reports that police in many cities are not even going to respond to petty crimes. They're not going to arrest people for petty offenses. They're going to focus on the serious offenders, people that are being violent, people that are, being a true menace to society. So if somebody, breaks into your car to steal stuff out of it, you may not have a police officer show up, and the Supreme Court has said they don't have any obligation to. So
That's right.
You are your own first responder, more so now than ever before. And it's not because the police don't want to help you. It's because they're going to be overwhelmed. And keep in mind, because they interact with so many people, the police are going to get sick. They're going to have to be in quarantine themselves. They're going to be shorthanded. They're not going to be able to respond to every 911 call because somebody has the sniffles. So you just got to, be responsible for yourself, be responsible neighbor, and be responsible with your family. Don't panic. And just, I don't understand the mindset. Like in a situation like this, you said, bug out. Well, where are you going to bug out to? An unplanted cornfield? How long are you going to live out there? Bug in, stay home, keep an eye on the news, make a nice meal, and, resist the urge to go out and just buy everything in sight, because either you think you're going to profit from it, which I really dislike people that do that, or because you think you need a year's worth of food. You don't. I just put up a super chat from a gentleman. I assume gentleman. I shouldn't assume because the name doesn't really denote that. But anyway, on the supply chain, I drive over the road. Most states lifted HOS regs. I don't know what those are. We are running around the clock to try and keep stores stocked. There is a supply problem, not a shortage. So what he's saying is there is plenty of product. It's just trying to get it to the stores. It's going to make it to the stores. So if something's not there today, go back in a couple of days and they're probably going to have it. So
right.
I
would go early.
Yeah, just go in the morning. Yep.
That's your best chance. Plus, you have less crowds that you're going to be around. So, that's a big part. Again, it's like my parents. They were talking about, we keep the place. We're cleaning. We're doing this. We're doing that. And I said, Mom, if you weren't going out and exposing yourself, you wouldn't have to clean like you're cleaning. And so, but again, guys, it's tough when you really think about what you have to go through. It's really funny. When this first came out, it hadn't really hit the States yet. And I had made a video on Sensible Prepper talking about it. And I finished it and we went up to a local Arby's, my daughter and I. And we walk in, and there are these 3 Chinese girls in line. And so I'm like, oh, great. I mean, they could have just come in. I didn't know what they were doing. But first thing I did when I went up to the counter, I put my hands on the counter, and I made my order. And then I thought, oh, my hands are on the counter. Well, then I picked up my cup. Then I walked over. We got the tray, which who knows, how much clean, how clean they're, cleaning those trays. I go set it down on the table, and I told my daughter, I said, let's go wash our hands. So we went, washed our hands, came back. I picked my phone up. Well, I had picked it up earlier. And that's a big one, guys, your phone. But, really, you're not going to necessarily you're not going to get everything, but the more that you're doing and cleaning and thinking about these things, the less chance you have, of contracting some part of it.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that was it.
I was going to say, so I have Jason, the cameraman. He and his wife work. He's a registered nurse and maintains his license, and his wife is an active nurse, and they're working her to the bone. But we've already discussed. The fact is, we're probably going to get COVID-19. I'm not scared of getting it. I mean, and I may be dumb for saying that. I mean, it may. I may have some underlying condition I don't know about other than high blood pressure that does me in. But the thing is it's so contagious, and the fact we've tested so few people, and we know, like I said, if there's one known case, there's 1,000 we don't know about. You're going to get it. Don't panic. It's the flu. If it gets bad, go see the doctor. But one thing that you got to also be mindful of is if you're symptomatic, don't go running into the ER and sit with a group of people. They're setting up testing stations everywhere. If you're really sick, I already talked to my wife. If I get really sick, we're going to go, and if I'm the one that's got the symptoms and she doesn't, she's going to go into the ER room, contact somebody saying, my husband is in bad shape. We think he might have COVID-19. Then they'll send somebody out to take care of me, to quarantine me, to keep me away from the staff so we don't infect the doctors and nursing staff and the other patients that are in for broken bones and whatnot. Try to be sensible. If you really think that you have it, make phone calls, call your doctor, call your local ER, call your urgent care. Don't go in if you can avoid it. Because that's how we're spreading it to people. And keep in mind, a lot of times in those places, you're going to have people that have compromised immune systems. You're going to have the elderly. When I go in just for regular blood draws for my normal medical nonsense I got to deal with at my age, the vast majority of the people I see there when I'm getting my labs done are people that would be considered elderly. So now if I'm COVID-19 positive and I go racing in there because I'm scared for my own well-being, I better be concerned with their well-being as well. So please, folks, don't panic. Just be, prudent in your actions and be mindful of other folks so you don't make other people sick. But I've committed myself to getting the darn thing, and I'd honestly rather have it earlier than later. Just get it over with.
I'm not planning to get it.
You're gonna try to ride it out. It's so stinking contagious, and we're probably a year away from an actual vaccine. I'm just like, give it to me, and hopefully I have antibodies and I don't get it next year.
Bring it.
I'm not asking for it. I'm not going out, licking bar stools. But if it happens, I'm mentally prepared for it.
Well, you do have that element. We talked a little bit about it. I know on one of the videos I did, they said, "Here I go touching my face."
We're like, oh.
My nose has been itching this whole time. I've been so good, and I finally just went, I can't stand it any longer. But one guy just said, the baby boomers deserve to die. That's too bad. I don't care. I'm not changing anything. And, and I just sent a message back. I said, or commented back. I said, I hope your parents don't live near you. And then there was one guy, I think he was one of the sports guys. I think he was a NBA player. He had it, knew he had it, took and started wiping his hands all over the lockers and putting them on places. In China, they were licking their hands and putting them on, like an elevator, the buttons. So you're going to have a little bit of that kind of element out there as well. And so, again, I think the best thing to do is, as much as possible, avoid.
Yeah.
Avoid.
Again, just be sensible. If you don't need to be out roaming around, don't go out. I mean, that's what we're doing. We're just going to stay in. We're going to go out once a week for supplies. We don't want to get into our preps. That's in case something really bad happens, but I don't really foresee that happening. I don't see the power grid going down. The government's going to make every effort to maintain the power grid. They're going to make sure that food supplies are being regularly delivered. They're going to make sure testing kits are out there, medical equipment's out there. His administration just made an announcement that they've bumped the number of respirators that they're going to be sending out to every state in the country. They're manufacturing them very quickly so that they can treat folks with pneumonia. So again, it's being handled. I think this administration's done a bang-up job of handling it, getting in front of it, and just roll with the punches, guys, and don't freak out.
The states also can come in and do what they need to do, and I think that was one of the things Trump said on one of them. A reporter had asked him, said, "Well, when are you going to get all this stuff out?" And he said, "The states can get it faster. If they have avenues, if they have ways to do it, they can actually get it faster." Yes, we're getting everything done, but the federal government's a big albatross. It's just this big.
Oh yeah.
Monster. So if the states can go ahead, then you have the support of the federal government coming in. That's going to be a big plus. But here's one thing that I just want everyone to kind of think about, especially if you are at home or you're working less hours or you're working from home. Sir Isaac Newton, when he Cambridge. It was during the bubonic plague, and they closed classes. They shut classes off. He went home. He was sitting there for like 3 months. He said that was the most productive time of his life. And that's actually when he discovered, or actually the gravity, came up with the whole theory of gravity, which is a fact. But, he said there were so many things that he accomplished during that time. So here's the thing, guys. You're off, you don't sit in front of, the TV and just waste away. Take the opportunity to improve yourself, to do something that's good, and just improve the way. Maybe it's just spending time with your family. And, really take this time to make it a positive instead of just adding to a negative. Yep. And so I think that's one of the big things that, if you're not careful. One thing, though, that I heard that really caused me to pause is a lot of these kids coming from school and a lot of families are living in abusive situations already. And now they're going to be stuck in that situation 24/7 with some people. And my heart really just goes out to those kids, because a lot of them, they don't eat except at school.
Yeah.
And so one thing our local school's doing is they are opening up the lunchroom, or at least for boxes, so the kids can come by and pick up food.
I think most states are doing that. We're doing that here as well. Every day they have box lunches for those families that need assistance. And, I know that the government's trying to pass a big stimulus package. I'm not sure how I feel about it. They're talking about $1 trillion and mailing everybody checks. But then again, there's a lot of people that aren't at work that aren't going to be able to. This is just going to trickle. It's going to cascade across the entire economy. When you don't have people, at work, then they can't pay their mortgage. And if they can't pay their mortgage or rent, that's going to fall down onto the lien holder or the landlord. The landlord's going to get into financial trouble. It just cascades. Right. So I'm hoping that these restrictions are lifted as soon as they possibly can, safely. Which brings me to one comment I noticed. It says, as Americans, we have the right to freedom of travel and freedom of assembly. You're absolutely right, we do. But just because I have the right to put a gun to my head and hit the decocker on a live round just to show you how brave I am doesn't mean I should do it. Okay, there's a difference between what we can do and what you should do. If you want to be a responsible citizen and not kill an elderly person, you might want to stay home if you don't need to be out drinking at the bars and then going home and kissing mom and dad. So, nobody's saying you can't live free. If you need to go somewhere, go there. If you want to go hang out at a buddy's house, go hang out at a buddy's house, certainly. But being responsible to the point where it's not just about you, it's about your neighbor, your loved ones, your friends. Just be sensible and be prudent in your actions.
Freedom requires self-discipline. It requires self-discipline. And like we said a minute ago, and the Founding Fathers were a very disciplined group of people. The early Americans that founded this country were disciplined people. And, now when things overstep their bounds, they're willing to step up and, take things into their own hands. But like I said at the beginning, is man has to be controlled. You can have self-control, which means self-discipline, doing the right thing, or you can be force controlled. But it has to be one or the other. So we just have to decide. And unfortunately, this thing with martial law and a lot of the things they're talking about, the restrictions are coming because people just won't take the advice and look at the danger that's in front of us.
Yeah, I hope that if the Guard is deployed, I hope it's to bring food and relief to those communities hardest hit. I mean, definitely we have pockets where we know the virus is really bad. You take a look at Seattle; it swept through old folks' homes. I mean, that's the worst possible place for it to happen. That's why the numbers are skewed heavily towards the mortality rate being so high with the United States so far, is because the worst possible segment of our society, the most vulnerable, I should say, segment of our society, the elderly, were hit right off the bat in Washington State. So, right. We need to be, mindful that the Guard may be called out to help relieve those areas. If we have a whole bunch of people that are out sick because trucks can't be driven, if the drivers are laid up in quarantine or deathly ill and need to be in the hospital, you may have guardsmen driving pickup or driving semi trucks or something. I don't know, but some people have said the Guard only comes out to do one thing, and that's to oppress the people. But then they walk that back a little bit later. I put their post up. That's not true. That's absolutely not true. Now they have been abused in the past. Katrina was a hot mess, and it irritated me to no end, but there are good uses of the Guard, and you shouldn't panic the minute that they get called out, and you shouldn't hate the Guard if they get called out. If anything, work with them. They're your neighbors.
Yeah.
Literally, the Guards. It's your family doctor. It's a coworker. It's the person you see every day at the gas station. That is the Guard, right? So it's just like the militia. Don't hate the militia. We are the militia.
Right.
Thank you, Jim, brother. Good conversation about the situation. This is mostly a major inconvenience for everyone. It's going to be okay in time. We will be better as a nation for it. Thanks. Keep up the good work, guys. You're absolutely right. And Sootch touched upon this. Hopefully, this is a learning experience that will be taught in history class going forward. And we are living in history right now, and how we behave and how we respond will be written in history. And so keep that in mind, because we really have control of how this plays out and how this ends. It can end poorly, or it can end on a positive note. And I have faith in our fellow Americans. I mean, we got some goofballs in every bunch, but I think that as Americans, as a nation, we're an extremely strong and proud people. And just like what I saw after 9/11 with the firemen standing outside. I used to work in Chicago, and they're out there with a flag hanging from a hook and ladder right in the middle of Lakeshore Drive, and they had the boot out. And every day I went by, I would throw money in the boot because it was going to help folks in New York. That's Americans. All the political bickering and the partisanship and all the other nonsense that we typically deal with on a day-to-day basis, it goes away, and we come together and we help each other, and that really does define us. And I believe America is one of the strongest, best countries in that regard. I love Americans, and I love our country.
That's right. The American spirit is still alive, and we just need to make sure that we exemplify that.
Yep.
And that's probably one of the toughest things, when we're facing some of these people that want to take away our basic rights and freedoms. And so hopefully this will strengthen us a little more unity.
Yep. And I'd like to see people, somebody had just gave a super chat that said, to have freedom or to have a free society, there must be order. Yes, to have civilization, when you have 350 million people living together, there has to be a government. Now, I'm more of the local type of government. Like I said, sheriff, local governments, county, city. I prefer at that level because that's more personal. I don't want the federal government micromanaging my life. I don't even want to know they exist unless somebody attacks us, or a treaty needs to be negotiated, or in this case, travel needs to be shut down, and they're actually doing their job other than stripping us of our liberties. I'm a libertarian, and I think that people should be free to do whatever they want, with whomever they want, with whatever they want, as long as they're not hurting somebody else. And, when it comes down to security, yes, I will help our local police, but I'm my own first responder. You guys go take care of the real problems. I got it covered here. and that's what it means to be Americans. It's the fact that we have the right to fulfill our own destiny, and we have the ability to make a decision and to be self-sufficient and self-reliant. And I think that empowers us as a people and as a nation, because we can stand on our own, and we do help our neighbors, and we do have the ability, if somebody steps out of line and starts looting my neighbor's house, I can intervene because I have the freedom to do so. Rand.
That's an excellent point. That was excellent. That was excellent.
All right.
And
I got a big thumbs down, by the way, so somebody didn't like that. That's probably the person that's looking to loot my neighbor's house.
They're voting for Bernie. Or Biden.
Communism 2020. Jeez, man.
Hey,
I just thought we beat that ideology, and now it's back with a vengeance and running for president. Anyway, I don't want to get off on that tangent.
I think we're seeing a little bit of that what we could expect under socialism already right now.
Yeah, exactly.
With the food shortages and
the lines for food. Just ask Rob Ski. He lived in communist Poland, and he'll tell you all about the wonders of socialism. But all right, man. So we've been at this an hour. Is there anything that you'd like to tie up? Is there anything that we didn't cover off on you think might be relevant to the conversation?
Well, there's so much, but I think it was good. I think, again, my biggest thing for everyone is to make sure take this time and make it quality time. Make it quality. If you're out of work, a lot of people, if you are going to work, do your best to keep your hands washed, keep yourself clean, make sure that your personal hygiene and at home and you're not spreading it. That's the big thing. But on past this, use this as a lesson to get yourself in good shape.
Yep.
So you're not panicking. When this happens, there's a saying. In fact, it's now on I think Southern Prepper actually was one of the first ones I saw it, but it's on the CDC website now. It said, "Don't be scared, be prepared."
Yep.
And, when you're prepared, you can kind of take a deep breath and, you go, okay, I'm fine. At least it keeps you from making irrational decisions.
I agree.
And so I think that's one of the big things. We're prepared financially. We're prepared. A lot of us are prepared, in certain ways. But make sure that you have those basic necessities, just a nice, little reserve. And if you want to go beyond that, it's good. But
yeah.
It's like one of my buddies said, one of the smartest guys I know. He said, "I'm better prepared when my neighbor's better prepared."
Yeah, I remember telling you that. Just kidding.
But come on, Tim, you spoiled my trip.
So, I'd like to add to a couple of things I'd like to stress, I think, towards the end here of the conversation is that, right now our communities are struggling because restaurants are closed, bars are closed, people are struggling. Support your local businesses. Like what I did, we went out and supported a local business in the small town north of us, and we ordered pizza. There were 4 or 5 people in there working. Usually there's twice that many staff on a regular weekend or weeknight, I should say. But we're going to continue to do that. We're not going to hit our preps. We're going to go in and pick up a little bit of food here and there, try to support our local businesses. But also, I'm, being cautious when I go in there. I'm keeping my distance, hand sanitizing. I'm not trying to pass anything. But we got to stick together. And this time that we have when our children are home, when we're home from work because, they've closed businesses or whatever, use that time to benefit yourself into better things. Right? So get stuff in order, do whatever you can do, be productive, but also try to support your local communities because when it boils down to it, we are the stewards of our local communities. And, think beyond yourself. Think about other folks, and everything's going to be just fine. Help each other. We'll get through this. It's not as bad as it seems on the news. It's perfectly manageable. And we're going to come out on the other side of this thing stronger as a nation and as a people.
That's right.
So
I agree, 100%.
All right, good to hear, man. Okay, so I'll throw up one last super chat here, and then I will sign off, guys. If you have not swung by and checked out Sootch00 on YouTube, please do that, and also check out Sensible Prepper. It's his other channel, and it's about as big as your Sootch channel, isn't it? Or it's getting pretty close, or
it's about half.
About half. Okay, I knew it was getting up there. I know you're growing pretty fast right now. You said earlier, but check it out because it's a great source of information for just everyday preparedness. It's not a a wild, radical, like you said, build a bunker and have a fallout shelter type of prepping. It's very sensible things that you can do affordably, practically to get by in certain situations. So please check out both of his YouTube channels. And yeah, if you'd like to support either Sootch or myself, we are supported on Patreon. And there is a link down below in the description of this video. Sootch is also on Patreon. Please swing by and check him out. For us, that's our primary way of funding. We're supported by you, our viewing audience. So thank you guys for the super chats. Thank you for the Patreon support. Thank you for tuning in. And I'm going to sign off now. Sootch, if you want to say anything else, feel free. And we'll.
Well, I want to say a big thanks to you, Tim. I really appreciate you getting in touch with me. And this is people are looking for answers. And people, and obviously we've had a lot of people that have thrown in here. And thank you guys for jumping in here and making it even more interesting.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Really,
it's greatly appreciated. And it's been a great chat. And maybe we'll reconvene after this and kind of do like an after action report and see how things played out and what things could have been done better and, whatnot. If you're up for it, I am.
Yeah, sounds great.
Okay.
Sounds good. Always good to see you anyway.
Yeah, it's good seeing you, man. And virtually speaking, see, we're telecommuting, right? We didn't get together and do a live stream.
We know each other personally, too. So, yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you all soon. Be safe out there, and try to have some fun and not take things too seriously and relax. We'll talk to you guys soon.